Coming up, counselors with Kentucky's problem gambling hotline say they are understaffed.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. The number of calls to the state's problem gambling hotline have tripled since sports betting became legal in September. Kentucky also has a limited number of trained and qualified counselors to serve the entire population. The Kentucky Council on Problem Gambling tells us it's caught them by surprise. Kelsey Soto reports.
Did you expect to see the numbers increase this quickly on, just 2-3 months in?
No. I thought it would be a steady progression, that we would get to these numbers as the sports betting evolved. I did not expect a tripling of the raw calls and a doubling of the help calls in the first month.
Michael Stone is the executive director of the Kentucky Council on Problem Gambling. He tells me there's only 7 qualified counselors around the state. That means none in northern Kentucky, 0 in Bowling Green or Paducah, and in Lexington, the state's second largest metro, not a 1.
We have these great geographic holes and some people think, well, that's those stations that you're talking about, they're part of the Bible Belt. There's not as much incidence of gambling, and that would be wrong.
While 2.5% of the sports betting revenue is set aside for the Problem Gambling Fund, that money likely won't be available until midway through 2024. It's projected to be an estimated $1.2 million a year.
There's a number of steps, just normal, natural bureaucratic steps that have to take place before any of that happens.
The other objective is to advertise and better promote the resources available.
Another reason why people don't consider gambling or have not considered gambling as an addictive behavior is because you don't ingest anything. You don't smoke it. You don't swallow it.
There is a plan in place to train and certify additional counselors around the state. A 30-hour clinic is set for next month and paid for by the council.
That was Kelsey Soto reporting. The National Council on Problem Gambling estimates that 1% of U.S. adults have a gambling disorder and 2 to 3% have a gambling problem. Kentucky's problem gambling hotline is 1-800-GAMBLER and is answered by people within the state.
We are tracking some chilly and foggy weather across the mountains for this Wednesday evening. Let's take a live look at some of that dense fog over at the London-Corbin airports. That current temperature also cooler in the Cumberland Valley, in the upper 30s over at the airport right now. And we have visibility down to 0 miles in Hazard, also London and Harlan, down to 1 mile for Moorhead, also Middlesboro. So be sure to give yourself some extra time if you have plans to be on the road by late tonight or early on your Thursday. A little bit cooler in the Cumberland Valley, down to 37 for Whitley County, up to 44 in Pike County, also Floyd County, so a little bit more mild in the Big Sandy Valley at this hour, thanks to an increase in those clouds. Up on the radar, we are dry, but we are tracking an increase in those rain chances as we go into central Kentucky, and maybe a few light sprinkles or light showers as we go into late tonight, also early on Thursday, especially west of Highway 15 as you wake up on Thursday. But the bigger story, by Friday, we are tracking this upper level low close to St. Louis, Missouri, and that will produce some snow showers for our region as we close out the work week, also as we kick off your weekend. But your forecast tonight, no snow showers, but maybe a few rain showers, especially in the Cumberland Valley, and those low temperatures back in the middle to upper 30s, and high temperatures could stay in the 30s all day by Friday. Also on Saturday, those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Cameron, thank you. After several days on the run, a Southern Kentucky shooting suspect is in custody. Kentucky State Police say they found Donald Napier in Floyd County. He's accused of shooting a couple. The two were shot Saturday while they were driving in the Gray community of Knox County. They are expected to be okay. Police say a tip led them to Napier. He's facing 2 charges of assault. The executive director of the Kentucky Opioid Abatement Advisory Commission is resigning. The Lexington Herald-Leader reports Brian Hubbard's resignation letter comes nearly a week after Attorney General-elect Russell Coleman chose a new chair. Hubbard wrote in his letter that since new leadership has been requested, he'll officially resign from his position on Sunday. Although this time of year can be exciting for many of us, it can also be triggering for those in early recovery or active addiction, leading many people to seek recovery treatment or to relapse. Alyssa Williams spoke with recovery workers to find out more about the trends they see during and after the holiday season.
The holidays can be a time many of us look forward to, but for those in recovery or active addiction, it can be a time of stress and anxiety.
Whether individuals no longer have contact with their family, there's been a lot of harm done, and so there's been a firm boundary put. It can be difficult for mothers and fathers who have not had the opportunity to be reunited with their children and just experiencing that sober for the first time and not having those substances that can kind of dole that out.
Kara Brown Floyd with the Recovery Cafe says she sees more people seeking their services during this time of year.
But we can also see at times an uptick in people isolating. It's very easy to kind of isolate, not want to be around people. It can be very difficult.
Kevin Schmidt with Addiction Recovery Care says this time also brings more relapses.
You know, when we see an increase in intakes and admissions, we typically also see a slight increase in people leaving against medical advice. So that does happen.
Overdoses may also increase during the winter months, a topic that hits close to home for Brown Floyd.
We did recently lose one of our community members to an overdose, and it's unfortunate. It's a reminder that it's not getting any better out there, and that the importance of the work that we're doing here and having our doors open, having a place for our members to come and stay connected.
For those struggling right now, help is always out there.
And just have the willingness to do the next right thing and to reach out, and you'd be surprised how far you can go.
In Lexington, Alyssa Williams, WKYT.
Brown Floyd says the Recovery Cafe is aiming to help those they serve right now through engaging activities like creating vision boards for the things they hope to improve on and accomplish going into 2024. House Bill 63 requires all Kentucky schools to have at least one school resource officer. It has now been more than 1 year since the deadline put in place by the legislature for schools to hire SROs, yet more than 40% of schools still do not have one. Districts unable to fill their open SRO positions were required to submit their reasons why to the state. Many say a lack of applicants and funding are the biggest issues.
Finding applicants has been tough, and then being able to afford, 5 for each school when we have a lot of other needs as well, and safety is important, but funding is an issue.
Some school leaders believe the state should fund SROs through new legislation. Pikeville's downtown parking is preparing for changes with a new pilot program. The city is planning to install 25 cameras to monitor 75 parking spaces on the downtown streets. The cameras will record license plate numbers and send tickets to the drivers who overstay their park time. The initiative is an effort to boost tourism and economic development by freeing up parking for visitors and shoppers.
After this year of trial period, we'll evaluate it and see if we think it's working well, and if that is producing what we want as far as keeping spaces open for customers. And if it's working well, then we have the option to expand it to cover the rest of those spaces. And if it's not working well, then we'll reevaluate and try to find another solution.
The effort is expected to be in place for at least 1 year, beginning sometime in January. The Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky has named Kristen Collins as its incoming Chief Executive Officer. Collins replaces founder Jerry Roll, who served as the CEO for more than a decade. Roll says their board selected Collins through a thoughtful process. While Collins transitions into her new role, Jerry Roll says she will be the founder in residence.
And then in residence, meaning I am committed to supporting Kristen and her team over the next year to 18 months to ensure that they have what they need from me and that I don't get in the way.
Collins will officially start as the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky's Chief Executive Officer on January 2nd. A number of new laws go into effect in Kentucky in the new year. Kristen Kennedy is here to break some of them down for us.
More than half a dozen new laws go into effect Monday. We're looking into 3 of those laws today. The first is Senate Bill 30. It covers automatic renewals and offers. If you sign up for a subscription or an offer, the new law says the business must tell you when the price will change or when the trial ends. They also have to offer a clear way to cancel. The second is House Bill 180. That requires health insurers to cover the cost of biomarker tests. The tests look for genes and other substances that give information about cancer. They're used to diagnose, treat, and manage disease. For a state like Kentucky, with a high rate of cancer, this bipartisan bill was a big win. And finally, let's take a look at House Bill 360. Owners of electric and hybrid vehicles will have to pay new fees for registering or for charging up at public stations. The fees are up to $120, and they will go to the state's road fund. The new laws go into effect Monday. The new legislative session starts Tuesday.
Kristen, thank you. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, U.S. and Mexico officials meet about the escalating migrant crisis on the southern border.
Plus, we are tracking some wintry weather as we end the work week, timing out those snow showers after this break.